Good.
All right, Chad, welcome to the podcast, the Nova University podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself to the people on the panel and the people that are listening to this as of now?
Yeah, I'm Chad McMahon. I grew up in Streamwood, Illinois, which is right outside of the Chicago area. I had 10 brothers and sisters, so it was a big family, kind of a rowdy bunch. And I grew up. My dad, he was a tech guy, and then we also grew up doing side jobs always. So I kind of learned how to kind of hustle at all times. He was doing like paper routes and stuff like that on the weekends when he wasn't working at his main job. So we kind of learned how to do that. And then he said when I was about 13, 14, he started getting into tree removal on the side. So that's kind of how I segued into sawmilling eventually. Um, I joined the military when I was 20 as an MP. Kind of the thought process was, do an MOS that you could get a job when you get out.
Hmm.
Um, so kind of as I kind of think about it, that like as I went through the military, though, it was um, kind of wish I would have gone a different path, but it was definitely fun to be an MP and play around with that stuff. So
Yeah, and what got you in the whole military anyway? Like, what was your big like what were you thinking at 18 years old? Like, were you thinking like because a lot of people they're when they're 18, that's when they're kind of like an adult, right? They can make adult decisions, and that's when consequences fall in. So,
yeah,
what were you thinking at 18? Like, oh man, do you have everything in order, or was it like military? I got to go to the military right away.
I think it was the combination. I just wanted to work out. Like honestly, like I was such a gym rat. I did wrestling and football, but I fell in love with wrestling. So, and then while I was in the military, I got to learn jujitsu and do a lot of get in the cage quite a few times for the all armed forces fights and stuff like that. So, and I was actually pretty successful. But that's kind of my main thing was kind of like I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, and um, climbing trees and logging and stuff was kind of I always kind of thought it was more dangerous. And my brother actually had a major accident, so I kind of wanted to go. I don't know, since I was very young, I always kind of was like my mind was geared towards the military. I was just like I want to be a soldier because fortunately Mountain Man wasn't a long no longer fur trapper was no longer available, so
Yeah, and
or common.
what did your family think about your decision as well going into that?
Um, they uh originally I was gonna go to the Marines, and my dad was Army, and he kind of asked me to stay one more year. So
Uh-huh.
I kind of respected that decision because they were always good to me. So they were but then we met a family friend that was an Army recruiter, and so I kind of was like, oh, I'll check this out. And the Army recruiters are so much more straight shooters. Like you could get your job that you actually wanted instead of reminder. I'm not a Marine, but from my understanding, like they're kind of like might be able to get this job you want. So, um, and back in '09, the Army had really good bonuses. The Marines were kind of like just join, you know, if you just sign up with us, you're a pansy if you don't sign up with us. And
Yeah.
it's like some like 5 foot tall guy that's like 100 pounds, and I'm like, well, I beat guys up a lot bigger than you, so like you ain't gonna call me pansy. But um, so that's kind of my thought process.
No, you're good. And while you were in the military, like, is there some experiences that you obtained that you can't get in the civilian world? I'm saying this because a lot of people, I try to tell people like, hey, try to gain as much experience because experience doesn't beat like knowledge in a way, right? So I always say like the military is like a good stepping stone. So what have you learned? What if you learned from the military that's like it's always going to affect you in a way, or it made you uh have these lesson learns?
Um, I would say the biggest thing is never taking, and this is just in general. So I don't know if the situations in the military made me learn this, or it was just what I learned in
Hmm.
general. I could have learned it somewhere else too, but basically never take no for an answer. Like when I had a like I always had that friction with my higher ups is like if they told me no, um I wouldn't like I kind of I learned how to like work around like or how to navigate, to get what I needed to do, or where I wanted to go. Because a lot of times people's senior than you don't want you to try to be greater than them, or they kind of, or they don't think you're capable of it. So it's just not like not being limited is what I kind of learned was like, but even growing up with my parents and stuff, it was just like I wanted to do certain things. Like I knew I had to work with them. It's just kind of, you know, how do you not get in too much trouble, but still, get the objective you're trying to get at, your accomplish your goal essentially.
Gotcha. Yeah. And
So,
what was one of those times where you had to like you did not just fall into no. You were like, I got to keep going with this.
I think the biggest thing was when I was started training for like for selection and stuff like that. I like in the MPs, it's not as common to have anyone actually be successful with that. So I had a lot of senior leaders kind of be like they outwardly had to be supportive, but I knew they'd gone like several times, so they were very like behind closed doors were kind of like this kid's not going to make it.
Yeah.
So,
And
uh,
what would you say for those that are not like I wouldn't say they're bullying on purpose. They're just negative in like in a passive way, right? Uh, what would you say for those in that type of scenario where they have either family members or they have friends or they well quote unquote friends or what they have coworkers that are just passively being negative like yeah you can't do that look at your size or you don't have the intelligence to do all that. What would you say for someone to handle all that?
to handle that, I would say like just not quitting and like keep like put in the work. You have to put in the work. That's what like specifically the military. Like if you're willing to do your own packet, and if you have a team leader, a squad leader, platoon sergeant, commander that's trying to hold you back, if you can put your packet in, that's 99% of the work. Fun example when I was trying to get when I decided I was done with the military, um, I was I decided I was done, and I had already had my LLC for my sawmill, so I actually sent up to HRC a job offer to myself, and they thought it was hilarious, but the program had actually gotten nixed, and S1 didn't know about it, so but they actually sent it all the way up. So, but yeah, I gave myself a job offer because I was just able to put the pack like I researched and asked the right people, and they weren't high ranking people, so they obviously didn't like they ended up not knowing and ended up going up the whole chain of command. But so that was probably the funniest example in the military of just getting something done, but like and then the program it ended up going all the way to HRC, and the program didn't exist anymore at like for 2 years,
Yeah,
and they somehow that was their specialty, and they didn't know. So I
that's
was like
funny.
a bunch of knuckleheads, but
And like what was your biggest struggle while you were like I guess like the age of like 20 to 26, let's say.
I guess it was just kind of figuring out, my like what I wanted to live for, and just like what my own identity, separate from my parents and stuff, because we were kind of like typical like small town or smaller town, like grew up in a like Christian family, and like so we were like the McMahon's, the massive family at church and stuff,
Yeah.
and like so it's like who's Chad gonna be, who's like what do you want to do, like he's at my I could have stayed home and like worked in my dad's business, and I kind of was like I want to do my own thing, like and dabble into some things and like take things a lot further than he was, because I saw that like my parents are had some limiting beliefs that like I definitely love them and they've done amazing in their own way, but like there were some things that was like okay I want to crush it in business and like and in the military and stuff like that, so like That's was my main focus. And
Yeah, I
um,
love it. You want to be a separate. You want to be you. You want to find your own identity. And what caused you to change towards business? What gave you that whole business mindset shift?
like just watching my dad do business, but he always did it was more of a side hustle and like less. It wasn't like done professionally. It wasn't done like
Like
necessarily quote unquote like the
like an
right way.
LLC? Yeah.
Yeah, it was like hey, side money, um, and I just knew the power of like business financing and stuff like that. Um, and I wanted to learn how to do that. I wish I would have had somebody to guide me, but sometimes, other kids' parents I've watched, that have like set businesses, the parents are actually like kind of, they go a different direction, I guess. So, but,
Yeah. And were you doing all this while you were in the military? Like, hey, I'm starting a sawmill business. Why did you do a sawmill business anyway?
Growing up, we learned how to do like tree removal, and like climb like high risk trees that sometimes you could bill out 3 to 5 G's in one tree job, which if you have the right people, you can finish in a day or two. So like we learned how to make lots of money very quickly. And like high school, I always was the guy with cash, like, and people were like, how do you have a couple $100s in like a weekend? And it was like, I worked for my dad, a couple $100s when you're a high school kid is like
It's a lot, yeah.
you're balling, man. So,
Yeah.
but so like I guess yeah, that's the main thing. My like uh probably the coolest story I had when I kind of like really got into focused on milling. We used to turn all that the waste wood. It was like a problem. It's kind of like bunker removal. You had to get rid of the trees, the logs. So the quicker you get rid of it, the better. So a lot of times we were throwing it away, turning it into firewood.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously you go to Lowe's and you see, like the better wood, like the red oak, the poplar. I mean, they're selling it for like 40, 60, $80 for like a 1 by 6 by 8 foot long, So it's like I saw the potential value, and and then it's a waste product for tree removal guys. Um, and then with epoxy, you can turn stuff that has like rot voids and stuff into like high end furniture. So there's so many different opportunities to it's like kind of recycling a waste product into something that's extremely valuable. A big slab that's dried can bring like $1,000+ we're probably taken care of and stuff. And then once you start to go on furniture, it could be like $5,000 to $10,000 per table. So every part of the process, you're making more and more money. So
Yeah. And would you recommend an investor to go to a sawmill and get their wood and all that stuff from there, or would you rather recommend them to Lowe's and get what they got over there? What are the benefits of using someone from the sawmill and getting your wood custom made rather than getting what generically people go to?
So the biggest advantages of custom sawmill is you can get custom sizes very easily for once you start getting the custom work, that's where it's depending on the sawmill. There's like super high production sawmills that cost millions of dollars that are going to produce similar stuff to Lowe's and kind of stick to certain markets of like your standard 2 by 6s, 2 by 4s, and stuff like that. But the where we kind of come is like we can do we can cut if you have the right mill, you can cut 50-foot long beam or something like that for custom, like you're talking about like custom homes, like custom like staircases. So like typically for like really high end homes, lake homes and stuff like that, or oceanfront property. One of my buddies in Wilmington sells a lot of decking that he imports from overseas for different stuff like that,
Mhm.
fencing. So it's mainly the custom, and then you're getting usually we cut oversized. So you typically, once it's dry and finished, you're getting a true 2 by 6. Whereas your standard Lowe's is gonna, when you measure it out, it's a 1.5 by 3.5, 2 by 4. So you're gonna get a lot more strength, and then for like furniture and stuff, we can cut I can cut a 76-inch wide, slab of wood that you can make a massive table on that you're probably gonna have to build a house around because it's so freaking big.
Yeah.
So or make sure it's custom made to fit the darn thing inside.
Yeah.
So,
Fit through the door and everything. And
yeah.
uh for someone like you that started this, what have you learned? Like what did you learn from before or when you first started? Has anything changed? Like, oh, I probably should not waste this wood, or I should probably use these tools instead of that one. What changed from Chad back then versus Chad now doing in the sawmill?
Yeah, so I started with a chainsaw mill, which is like one of the worst, the slowest, and sometimes I wish I could go back to like no overhead basically, but for a couple $1,000 you can start with a very either a chainsaw mill or a very basic mill that's manual and it's not automatic, um, and it's a good place to start. But like once you start getting in more automated sawmills, your quality is better. You have like I have a computer that does the thick that all I have to do is push a button, and it goes the same thickness every time. So just there's less chances for quality issues. So the quality control's better. We're able to produce a lot more with a lot less effort, like physical effort. So, and now we have machinery to move the logs. The next thing is kind of the biggest thing is we're outsourcing the drying. So if we were able eventually to kind of get that in house, that would help the most out, kind of getting to the next level. So
Nice. And what did you not expect from your sawmill business from when you first started?
I guess I never thought it would grow so big. I moved to the current property I'm at with maybe 50 to 70 like table, or like coffee to table size pieces,
Mhm.
and it's grown to you know 30 by 30 shop is slam full of wood that's dried, and then as you saw, I was ballooning out out of it, like pieces everywhere. So
Oh yeah.
um and just the connections I've made too. A lot of people don't understand, like kind of have seen you guys network with a lot of real estate investors. It's like I network with a lot of other sawmills that have a lot more production capabilities, or clients, or I'll even haul for them. When I started getting the hot shotting, that was kind of how that connects the hot shotting and the sawmill. And it's like then I can haul for a mill, like another mill. Like I'm picking stuff up for my buddy in Wilmington Monday, so I kind of get paid off other people's work, and then we kind of send each other work as we go and
Yeah.
stuff.
So
So that's been
you try to break as many birds or kill as many birds with one stone as possible
exa-
to make it the
exactly
profit. And
exactly.
well, how did you? A lot of people are wondering, and just Gerard's favorite question, but like, how did you start doing this? Where did you get the money from to start this whole mill, like sawmill process?
Yeah. Um, so I we had I gotten so I kind of started my journey of like financial freedom is with we gotten debt free besides and then I was in real estate for a little bit for a couple of years. So I gotten a triplex, and
Yeah.
I started doing sawmilling. Well, I did a big tree job where somebody paid me like 3,500 to cut this tree down. He paid me before he left, before the job was done. Is like, just have it finished by the time I get done with deployment. And he was like, yeah, you can sell the firewood. And then that was the first time I ever brought in a sawmill um, and worked with a sawmill. And every board was sold within 24 hours that we cut. So
Wow.
I made like $5,000 total off that job, with the firewood, with the call, the 3,500 from the job, and then with all selling about 800 board foot, which I sold real cheap, which is about $1 a board foot, and and then I sold like 3 cords of firewood from it. So we utilize usually that's like a huge expense. Usually you have to take it to a dump, you have to pay per ton, gas, time, it's a huge problem. So we were able to capitalize on that. So that was like, that's what set the fire off. And then we got debt free at that time, besides the mortgage that triplex we ever had over on Chalmers Court, which um, was, that's how I ended up meeting Shelby and Mike through that process of selling it a couple years later. But I actually started in my backyard. My poor tenants had to put up with me sawing at different times. And then I started with, it's probably about $2,000. I got the biggest chainsaw, steel cells. It, at one point I had a 6-foot bar. So like it, I mean, it was big. So the nice thing about that is it's portable. And if you got if you got a strong back, I don't suggest doing it for long periods of time, because you make you a young man old really quick. But for a couple $1,000s, and you could go a lot cheaper. You could start a lot cheaper. That's like the best best chainsaw they sell. It's about 7 horsepower. So you can start with a smaller one. You can't really run as big of a bar on it. So you cut smaller logs. So
Yeah.
And then of course you can always do firewood too. So chainsaws are nice. But basically all you get is like an attachment. It's called Alaskan mill, and the people in Alaska actually make cabins with it. It's the slowest way to do it, but if you're low on money, it's one of the cheapest ways to do it.
Yeah. And where a lot of people are, you're so knowledgeable on like all this like sawmill and the wood industry. Like, how did you? I know you get involved with your father, but how did you enhance your knowledge on your industry?
Yeah, so I obsessed about it for probably a year, and just did all the did watch YouTube University, watch as much as I could on it. All the different Facebook groups. There's a bunch of really big sawmill groups, and then even when I finally got some of the equipment, you would just ask, and you would, if you know where to look or know how to research, I mean, and just devour everything you can, kind of become a subject matter expert on it. Like you can learn anything, and you, as things would arise, you try to meet people too that know more. I actually because a chainsaw mill can mill really wide stuff. A lot of standard bandsaws can only, like commercial bandsaws, a lot of times they're only set up to mill 24 inches, and I can mill up to 56 inches. So I actually had some mills contact me and were like, hey, come out, like mill for us. We'll split the logs. We got the logs there. They got the machinery. So there's a couple of opportunities like that that I actually got paid by other mills come out and do something that they couldn't.
Wow. Okay.
And I also started with just I didn't even have a truck back then. I had a little Mazda that could fit an 8-foot ladder. Like no joke. Like it was crazy. So
Yeah. So you just made it happen. No matter if it was in your backyard and your tenant was getting angry, or using your Mazda, you had it going no matter what. You don't need the right tools. You just need the tools that you already have right now and make it work. And
exactly.
what advice would you give to someone that is starting out in the sawmill industry, or they want to get into it?
I would say the two things sometimes you just jump in. Like I had no plan when I first had the mill, or I actually hired a mill to come out with that one tree job I was talking about earlier. I had no idea that you had to put like wood spacers, 12 to 18 inches in between so it doesn't mold. I had no plan. I didn't have any idea that you had to seal the ends so it doesn't crack, you don't crack too much, or how to dry stuff. So the biggest thing is like, if I were to start again, I would learn about the drying process and like the process after you cut it, because the cutting part is a very small portion. It's important, to get the good quality, but it's also important what you do after it and drying and stuff. And I probably start with a kiln first, because I have a homemade one, but it's still not as proficient as I would. If I one of these days I'll have to fix that, but I'm kind of in between the two businesses with the hauling. So, but
Yeah. And can you speak about your hauling business? Why did you start doing hauling?
So basically, I I bought a I bought an F550, and I was looking at the payment. I was like, okay, I got skid steer payment. I've got this payment. And I was kind of I was kind of like, okay, well, like so the sawmill income, you kind of like $100 here, $100 there, a couple $100, and every once in a while I'll be like, I'll get a big order or like a big job, and it'll be like thousands.
Yeah.
So like it was kind of inconsistent, and that's the other thing I'm starting to learn is just like how to put the money into the marketing so it's a little bit more predictable, or like control, like if I want to amp it up, or how to kind of blow things up with like marketing and stuff. And um but yeah, so I got the truck, and I was like looking at the payment like, oh, this is gonna be kind of tight or whatever. So I started researching about hot shotting, and
What
I
is hot
decided to,
shotting, by the
so
way?
it's basically it's like trucking, like similar to a semi truck with a truck with a dually, or you can do a single wheel truck too, and a trailer. Um, and actually, you can do it without a CDL too, which a lot of people have jumped into. It was kind of big, especially during COVID. There's like basically all the semis didn't have enough capacity to haul the freight fast enough, so the money in trucking for a while was like crazy, and it's kind of like dying down, where now there's almost too many trucks, so the capacity is not as good. But the way you fix that is, if you have direct clients that you don't have as many middlemen, you can get the rates you kind of need to survive as a business. Like my buddy, he has no problem paying like what I need to make to actually be able to, run the business and still be profitable after all the expenses of diesel and stuff like that. So
And how did you started getting clients, like when you first start? Is it like word of mouth, like, hey, I'm doing this, come over, or did you run ads, or what did you do to get people to come to your business?
yeah, with the sawmilling, yeah, I started probably, I think I started 3 years. So I've been doing sawmilling for about four, or I think we're getting close to five now. But yeah, I started a Facebook business page. That's probably the easiest place to start. And then you just start, kind of word of mouth. You do some, I've done some promotionals, kind of build up the followers and stuff like that. And then, traditional handing business cards out. So it's kind of a combination of, new and old school marketing tactics and stuff. And then you kind of use your personal Facebook page to kind of show kind of what you're up to, and people that are interested will kind of be like, oh, hey man, what's up, and just networking too on social media is really important too. Just showing what you're up to, because I've gotten business from just showing I was hauling another load, and the guy's like, he didn't even check my insurance piece. He's like, there's no way they would let you haul that if haul a Bitcoin mine if you don't have insurance. So he's like, yeah, throw it on the trail. I was like, I got it just in case you need to see it.
Can you talk about that, the story of you hauling like Bitcoin?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So for some reason, they're building these massive compounds of Bitcoin mines in Texas, a little south of Dallas. But yeah, there's some different partners. I was trying to kind of figure out their network, but like I'm just the driver that picks it up. But and the one thing about, like, if you're actually into hauling, is when you're hauling like one of those big containers and stuff, your gas mileage. So you have to make sure you get paid, on the top. Like we usually get like $3 to $4 a mile to haul stuff like that, but because your gas mileage can get as low as like six miles to the gallon, even though they're not super heavy. But yeah, each miner holds, I think it holds like about 400 processors in there, like the computer processors and
Yeah.
stuff. That's always fascinating. And they actually put them right next to the power grid in Texas, and they run off peak hours. So I was kind of, I bought a little bit of crypto here and there, but it was kind of cool to see the actual infrastructure and how it's built and how it kind of works a little bit. So
Nice. And you just found these people just from networking, or just from posting like what you're doing out there, and then people were just attracted to what you're doing.
Yeah,
and that's how
basically.
you get your business.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And for like getting the equipment, right? Getting the vehicles, getting like a lot of this stuff, right? I've seen it firsthand that your stuff is like really expensive. Like
Yeah.
the vehicle, the tow, what is that called in the back that you tow with?
So it's
Uh
called a gooseneck trailer.
yeah.
So a gooseneck trailer, you're gonna be able to pull a lot more than they call it a bumper pull. Like your traditional like lawnmower guys will have like a bumper pull. So once you get past like pulling like past 10,000 pounds, you kind of want more of a gooseneck setup because I think I can legally scale about like 42,000 pounds with the truck, trailer, and freight. So
And where did you find all that equipment anyway? Because a lot of these people, remember, these people that are listening to this, they're almost like babies, right? Like, oh, you can buy stuff like that. Where do you get all that stuff?
so yeah, so like yeah, they have. So one thing you so I had a question pop up too. Yeah, sometimes we are using brokers or some of the load boards, but also direct clients is where it's at. You want to get in best case scenario if you can get contract freight. The Bitcoin mines are actually like contract freight, so we have like a direct line to the people. We know them and kind of we work with them, so they pay what we need to make to be able to pay for diesel and stuff like that. But back to the equipment, yeah. So the one thing too is if you don't have a CDL, you can actually go, and this could be like a job if somebody was just looking to make money and travel and kind of, it's, I always recommend people get a CDL and kind of do the heavier freight eventually, but to kind of get your, nose in the game, or you can start and do a non-CDL hotshot. You just can't. And the only difference is, obviously you don't have a CDL, but like you have to be your combined weight rating. So the trailer and the truck can't be over 26,001 pound, which is weird because you also can't weigh 26,001 pound over 26,001 pound. So that's kind of like same thing with box trucks and stuff. Like they have CDL and non-CDL. So like you can get a job to being a box truck driver and stuff like you have to follow a lot of DOT regulations and stuff like that. It's kind of,
Yeah.
you got to go through the scale houses too. And then you have an electronic log. So it's kind of there's a lot of like compliance things that can kind of be annoying, but then if you have a CDL, then you're kind of, the only thing you're really limited on weight and length is how much the truck can actually haul,
Yeah.
like safely,
And
so.
for buying the equipment, did you go on like Facebook Marketplace? Did you go to like, does Lowe's or Home Depot have a website where you can buy like the hauling equipment and all that? Or is there like a certain website where you can get all this equipment so you can get started?
There's so I run a PJ trailer, and then I had a Ford F550, but I basically blew an engine
Yeah.
with that one, so I just got it home. But eventually we'll probably repower it. But Dodge, most people I know run the Cummins engine, is just world renowned for they put them in semi engines, so I've had decent luck with them. Their older equipment is always going to break, so it's kind of like cost benefit. Like, sometimes the biggest thing we've ran into is just parts, and like when something goes down is parts, and then people that can actually fix stuff like
Yeah.
quickly and not try to rip you off. So it's kind of, because when you break down, you're kind of like, that's the worst thing in the world. So if I were to start at the beginning with that business, I would probably drive for somebody for a while and kind of get, and then there's massive opportunities right now for, making 70, like if you kind of wanted to, if you're a young kid and you want to just make 70 to 100,000 like in a year or two, I mean, driving a semi like with like Walmart and stuff, that was like shocking too. Is like Walmart opened that up and they're paying like 110,000 and they train you. So it's there's so many opportunities with trucking. I mean, the other thing is the brokers, they're kind of like they can make like sometimes, one time the broker made 60% of the load. Like, so it's like a $4,000 load and they paid me like 1,800. So they make that amount, that whole amount, the difference, because
Wow.
they like, I was so mad when I found, because usually the client doesn't tell you, sometimes it'll be on the paperwork you get from them, but they'll just post it on a load board, and you're kind of like, um, once you drop something off, especially if you're OTR, like over the road, you'll drop something off and then you'll be like, yeah, it is robbery. It's crazy. Oh my gosh, I was so mad. Like, because one of the guys that worked there was like, "How much do you get paid for this?" And then he told me they pay like 4,000. I was like, "Oh my gosh, wanted to choke slam the darn broker." But so there's huge opportunities with brokering. I mean, like at home jobs, brokering and dispatching. If you can get into it, dispatching is probably the easiest place to start. And that's pretty much all you would do for another truck or basically you contract a truck to work for them. And a lot of times they make 10% of the load. So, if you book out $10,000 worth of loads for one truck, and honestly, you could probably dispatch, five trucks, probably be, a little bit kind of past five trucks, you kind of, be hard for one person to do it. But five trucks not out of the realm of possibilities. And if you're getting even if you're getting 5%, 5 to 10% is kind of the average. And you can make, I mean, you could sit in your pajamas and just, call people. You have to make, you have to try to make, relationships with people so you can actually make your trucks enough money to stay running. So,
Yeah.
These, a big semi does not want to run for $2 a mile, when, the big problem in freight and trucking right now is during COVID, all the prices of equipment and everything went so high that a lot of people are way over their heads. Like they bought a $250,000 new truck, and now all the used trucks are starting to come back on the line, and they're way over. And then the freight rates are dropping. Sometimes with semis, they can be as low as two, or a little bit south, a little bit less than $2 a mile, which is like crazy low even for hot shots, which are a lot less expensive, So,
Wow, that's crazy. And
yeah.
for you, did you finance all this with a business loan?
Yeah, so I have a really good equipment lending guy, which I wish, like, eventually if I was able to get loans as easily for real estate as I could for equipment.
Yeah.
Like it's and it's, if you guys want to know, which it's a CIT has been really good for me. There's a guy named Christopher Smith is my guy over there, and he just as long as you make your payments every so often, he'll be like, yeah, you're approved for 50,000. Then every couple months he'll like up it by 10 G's. So
Doesn't matter what kind of business, because I've never used a business loan. I only use real estate loans, right?
okay.
Can you explain to people how business loans even work from like someone that does business themselves?
Yeah, so this is more like equipment loans. They do some business loans. Now I went through PayPal recently for a business, like a traditional business loan, which can be kind of some of these, like, depending on how it's classified. The one I got recently, like, you have to pay it back pretty quick. It's like a working capital loan, so it's like it's a $600 a week payment. Like, so you got to pay it back pretty quick. So that's kind of, and that's like the interest rates usually are a lot higher than like normal, like a lot of normal stuff. Like I know a lot of people buying cars got used to like 4% or 1%, or 1 to 4%. So these loans tend to be like 12%. So it's kind of on the higher end of, because they're a little bit risky. They don't like it as much. So, but just honestly, getting a traditional business loan is like one of the hardest things.
Really?
Yeah. So like the biggest thing is being in business 2 years. I know I always see these TikToks about like no doc loans, and you just walk in and they give you 50 G's of like business funding. It's I've tried to figure out how to do that, and I'm not sure if you've ever run into that, like how to do that, but
How I do it, especially like if they're like, oh, we need some source of for example, real estate, right? Hopefully my lender's not listening to this, but
Yeah.
basically what you can do. Oh, one of my lenders told me to do this, but they were on the down low. So they said, uh, if you have someone that let's say it's living in a property, right? Just have a document that says like, hey, yeah, I'm living here. I'm going to be paying this much, right? But
Okay.
they are not paying that. They're just going to sign a document that says, hey, I am paying this much, right? Usually what they say is don't have anybody that has the same last name as you. Uh,
Okay.
but if you have a cousin that doesn't have the same last name as you could definitely use them in a way.
Okay.
So you're like, hey, listen, just sign this lease, right? You're not living in it, but I just need to show proof that there is somebody living in here that's paying for this. And you give it to the lender, like, oh, it looks good on paper. Close it up, give you the loan, right? That's how so that the only reason why they want to do that is to mitigate your DTI. DTI meaning that your debt to income ratio, right? So they're like, okay, if you're making $1,300, right, and your debt is $1,000, cool. And now you can break that. Okay, now you're making $300 on paper, right?
Yeah.
So that's better to have, and all the tax records, they show proof as well. And for you, Chad, how do you show 2 years of business? Would that be just starting an LLC for every business that you do?
Yeah, that's I haven't like divorced them from each other yet, like which um I almost need to put a like I would recommend is like separating the incomes at least, like even if they went in the same like bank, but like put them into two separate accounts just so you can kind of see where you're at on both of them.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is I see the hauling as like part of the sawmill, because eventually I kind of want to get out of doing it for other people or doing as much for other people and just do it for myself, because the capacity that the hauling allows, because I wouldn't have really felt comfortable springing for that much equipment, or adding that equipment if I didn't use it as much as I do. So kind of increase the total revenue of the both businesses combined in my mind. So it's kind of how I justify that. But back to the yeah, with like CIT. So basically, yeah, you want 2 years in business. They want to see. I believe they wanted to see. I can't remember exactly what they like what their minimum was when I started, like what they needed. But equipment financing is one of the easiest financings to be able to qualify for. They're very like they just want to see. I think it was like it might have been as low as like 3 months in business, but at that point I had like two years in business when I started working with them a lot, and then I'd already bought a skid steer through Kubota credit, so I had those payments online. But the biggest thing a lot of people don't do is cycling money, even cash, through their business bank account. Because if you can't prove that you make any money, they're never gonna approve you for any. I mean, they might, but there's
Yeah.
I'm sure there's ways to work things around things. But that's what I recommend, because I know a lot of other small businesses. They do a lot of cash jobs, which I was doing a lot of cash jobs, but I would always cycle it through,
Yeah.
even though nobody likes paying taxes. Like that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, that's one of the big things. Like, guys, whenever you're trying to do business, if you want to get your foot on the pedal, you really want to pay taxes, right? You really want to show that you're making money so you can pay taxes and then get loans, right? That's what the banks want to see. And that's how you kind of get started. It's kind of like what is the chicken or the egg, right? But what came first? Like for you to get started, you need to get loans. And for you to get loans, you need to pay taxes. But the game plan is not to pay taxes, right? So at the end, when you're really successful, right? When you're really you're running your business, you kind of want to steer towards not paying as much taxes, right? That's what you want to do. And for you, Chad, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to someone that's starting out in the entrepreneurial world?
Um, One piece of advice. Yeah, probably the biggest thing is get your business credit built. Being able to walk in, like if I wanted to get into Toro tomorrow, I could go pick up a couple cars tomorrow. So it's like just being able to, kind of get that first couple of years out of the way. Those first 2 years, build your LLC and get rocking with that, and then just find a couple, even if you don't end up staying with that specific revenue stream, eventually you want many, but start and stick with one, and then if that doesn't work, get on to the next one, and stuff like that. So that's kind of what my biggest thing I always tell other business people, and start with the end in mind, like figure out where you want to go, and then sometimes but just starting is like the biggest important thing, like start making money, like like Gary Vee always talks about, like you can go garage selling tomorrow and flip a bunch of things, and I'm not an eBay guy. Like Facebook Marketplace is where I do most of my business, and like I mean, people come in, buy $1,000 piece of wood. So
yeah, I always say this. I think Alex from Ozzy said this, but like, he said, he's like, that one choice that you don't make is it's the choice that stopped you from becoming a billionaire, right? So it's like, I hate the lottery, but it's like almost like it's like the lottery theory, right? Like if you don't play your card right now, you could probably be losing billions and millions of dollars if you would just buy the scratch ticker or whatever, right? So for someone like us, right, we need to put the work in. So we need to actually be out there. Like if you're out there and let's say you recorded yourself like hauling this equipment, you could be like, you know what, I'm not gonna upload this, right? But if you did upload it, right, in this alternate universe where you did upload it, you had 3 new clients. One of them is a Bitcoin miner. One of them is he's Bill Gates' son, right? And another is like Amazon, right? They're like, hey, we need your help. So in this alternative universe, just from you uploading that video, you got all these like new business routes that you could take. So that's what I see. I'm like, oh man, if I don't make this choice now, I could be losing so much of a return on investment. And when I say return on investment, it's not always money. It's not always monetary things. It's usually like a way to get, like you said, you want to have the end in mind, right? Mine is freedom, right? If I can get the freedom in mind, I'm trying to see what's the biggest return on investment that'll get me closer to freedom. So what is yours in a way, your end goal? What is your end goal?
So I was thinking about this because I was figuring you'd ask me a question like this. But my biggest thing is I've always dreamed, and sometimes I would also caution people that don't let life don't limit yourself. So like just because you're kind of like at a starting point, like go big, go for it, but sometimes the older you get, the more you kind of put yourself in a little box and like, okay, I don't know if I'll ever do this, but the biggest goal I've kind of dreamed of in 3D is kind of owning like 1,000 acres, and kind of that's kind of what started the fire, and just some of these things in my life is like owning a big piece of land that I can have the like I can dig a pond one day, and plant 100 thousands of trees the next, and cut some of them down, and like just do and just have like my piece of heaven that I can kind of do what I want. Because I grew up in a suburban neighborhood with no yard. Like the property I'm on that you saw is like a dream to me, to be able to kind of not every once in a while just knock a tree down, or I burn all the time, like burn whatever I want, within reason.
So you just want to be a farmer on steroids. I see it. Get all the land you want, all the trees, all the ponds. I see you.
Kind of like, so like I've also there was a book I read in high school about like kind of this concept of game farm. Have you ever heard the term game farming? Like
game farming? No. Can you explain that?
Get like kind of like a hunting preserve, but you raise the animals. But it was talking about this couple in Wisconsin, and they actually like, it was kind of like a fenced-in farm, but they raise like different animals, like kind of basically in a natural setting, and just kind of like they would transplant them to other places. Like if deer were low in Tennessee or something, they would trap them and bring them, or like I don't think they did elk, but like I don't know, kind of like exotic game farming, ranching. It's very common in Texas to have like all kinds of like African animals like raised, and like you can shoot some of the different kind of deers, like antelopes and stuff. So kind of a mixture of that, but I recognize like obviously land prices. I want to get into that eventually. Is like land investing, but land prices are like have gone even like where I'm at in the boonies. Like I mean, $10,000 an acre is not uncommon. But then some other places, out in Dunn, there's a property right now, 80 acres for 200,000. It's like, shoot, and I got the equipment to, clear the land if I want, like for real estate, and then saw the lumber for cabins and stuff like that.
Shit. I'm trying to think of what would you do with 80 acres? Like that's like a
we did a tree job recently. It was a $10,000 tree job. We cleared 7 high-risk oaks that were around a cabin.
Yeah.
And the guy had in Jackson Springs, and it had man-made pond and 150 acres. And the guy that manages it, he's allowed to manage it very cheaply. And then he wait, shoot, what did he ask? Let's see.
Do you do mulch as well?
I haven't got into that. I have a buddy that. Where'd you go? I haven't gotten into that. I just right now I've just got a tooth bucket and a grapple, so I can like smash the brush, but I haven't hardcore gotten into mulching. My buddy does brush cutting, which a mulcher is a lot more expensive than a brush cutter, so brush cutter is kind of a good in between. That is a good side hustle. But the biggest thing with any business is just like the lead generation. Is like if you can figure out how to do lead generation in one business and just like take it to every business. And one of my tree buddies that does tree removal in Fayetteville, I mean, he's grossing like 500,000. He can walk into, with most equipment loans, he can walk into and buy several $100,000 piece of machinery like tomorrow. So but that's he's done everything right, like with the accounting. So like and running all he talks to me all the time about business. He's like, oh, all these other tree guys, they just take cash deals, because I mean, you're making some of these tree jobs, you're making $3,000 a day. So like, but they'll have tons of cash, but they don't put any of it in a business or in a business account. So you can't prove you earned any money.
Yeah.
So you can't borrow, so, but that's kind of my rant.
Nah, you're good. Chad, we can move on to the ending questions here now.
Yeah.
So if you can go back in time and tell your younger self something, what would it be?
What would it be? Man, I don't know. Just go harder, faster, I guess. But no, I mean, it's. I think everything happens at the right time, and you look back and you see how you could have done it better. But I don't know. The biggest thing, I guess, I'm proud of myself for putting kind of trying things that sometimes my family would have never advised to try. Like getting into real estate and running a business more professionally than my dad was able to. So yeah, there's pretty much, I don't know, I'm pretty, I didn't always succeed with what I wanted to accomplish, but I think I would, just try, even some of the things I did in the military was I showed up and I didn't always get, I didn't always accomplish the mission, but I, just being able to experience some of those failures have helped me a lot in life now. So
nice. And what question would you like to ask your future self?
What I'm focused right now, it's not necessarily a question, is living without regret. And I mean, the older you get, sometimes looking back, it's kind of like, I wish I would have done that. And it's just, how can I live? And then with that too, our goal, our pursuit of entrepreneurship and success is remembering to live while we do that. And just enjoy life on occasion, so that's the biggest thing I would say, because time, you can always make more money. You can't make more time.
Of
So
course. Yeah,
yeah.
that's all. I always I'm a very morbid guy at night. I'll tell you that. I'm like, I have a little journal. I'm like, God, if I died, what have I accomplished, or what can I do? Or like, you know how people they get excited when they're 21 or 20, or
Yeah.
whenever like they're turning a certain age. I'm like, oh my God, it just makes me closer to death. I'm like, I gotta get things done. But you know me, you're like, oh, this guy, he's trying to do a lot of stuff. That's because I'm getting in my head, I'm like, I'm so close to dying. It's like, oh, I can get some, I need to get something done, right? I need to not leave a legacy, but make sure that the world is well off in a way. And I know the world's gonna be well off without me, but I just want to see if I can, you know, I see life as a video game in a way. So if you're playing the game, uh, do you want to be known as a winner or a loser? I kind of want to be known as a winner. So why not have fun playing the game, enjoy the game, but also try to win the game as well, right? I always tell people don't try to be a sore loser, uh, because you sucked, right? Just like enjoy the process, enjoy the game, just do your best. And we have a question here from Jaden. How do you feel about market inflation and an upcoming recession? How would you think we can manage financially wise?
I think the important thing is kind of stack as much cash as you can. Like I'm kind of lowering my profit expectations. So like if somebody comes in wanting to buy a bunch of wood and like, normally I'd ask 12, a lot higher amount. I'm like, okay, you got cash on hand. Like the more cash I can get, kind of lowering my expectations a little bit with my specific business. But I would set cash, learn a valuable skill. Uh, any business that's equipment intensive can be very frustrating because there's a lot of uncontrollables. Machines are going to break, so like having emergency funds or access to some type of financing that can get you out of a pinch and get you back to making money is key. So capital but the more you can bring to the table with capital, the more you can, obviously borrow and kind of weather the storm. Um, so it's definitely we're definitely looking. It's not looking the best for some industries, but I guess too is the important thing would be to research kind of a lot of businesses are started. So like try to figure out what problem in this next recession you could maybe fix. Like if there's all of a sudden a bunch of foreclosures, the junk removal business might blow up. The other thing is figuring out some skills that are valuable and rare is the key because in the area, say it again. In the area there's not that many sawmills, so it's I'd probably only know of a couple hundred in North Carolina. So like specialized. There's not a lot of people that get into it, but it's a multi-billion-dollar industry in North Carolina. I think last time I saw some stat, don't quote me on it, but I think it was a $19 billion industry. I think we have about 7 million acres of forest, so there's definitely opportunities. But I think the biggest thing is, reselling, like just in sales and marketing and stuff like those in every business. If you're good at,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Like if you can sell. My neighbor actually does. He sells roofs now. He just moved in. We've been hanging out a lot, and he was showing me kind of the ropes the other day, and he helps his like with insurance claims, and he can make a couple $1,000s and not do any of the work, which I'm like, oh my gosh, sign me up. So, all I have to do is knock doors for a couple hours. Like goodness gracious. So
Yeah, you said it best, Chad. And all I want to add on to that is I have a thing called like for like recessions and all, like whenever we're about to go downhill, I always say have a bullshit detector, right? Uh I say this because it could work for yourself and for others as well. When I say for yourself, I mean if you look at a deal, right? Is it a deal that's doing great during the good times? So what's going to happen when the bad times come? Is it still going to do good or is it going to tank? Right. I want a real estate property that's going to do like good or great during the good time, during the bad times. And whenever the good times come, I'm loaded, right? That property's doing the 80-20 rule. It's making 80% of my profits, and it's like only 20% of my portfolio, right? So that's what I want for a certain business or certain things. And I would also recommend people having a contingency plan, right? So what that means, like have like a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, right? Uh, I know a lot of people that say, "Oh, just go with your first plan," right? But when a recession hit, a lot of people they don't plan for a recession, right? Or they don't plan for like a horrible accident or a life event. Uh, it could be something like I think you were there, Chad, but like someone said, like uh, the three things that will change you as a human being is one, a divorce, two, a a loved one or someone dying in your family, and three, buying and selling your first property, right?
Yep.
I say I agree to all that, right? So if you're running a well business, right, like you're making millions of dollars, right, and then you find out that your father or your mother just passed away, that's gonna hurt you internally, and you're gonna be like, I can't work right now, I can't function a business, right? And a lot of people they never plan for that situation. So my big thing is whenever a recession or whenever your own recession doesn't even have to be like economically a recession. It could just be your own type of recession. Just have a good plan business, right? If like have a if then statement, like if this is the nerdy part of me of whenever I'm coding, right? It's like if this happens, do this. If this happens, do that. And if that doesn't work, do this, right? So those are some of the things that I recommend people doing whenever they think of, oh, what if inflation goes up? What if those are great questions. Now come up with answers, right? You have to come up with your own answers. Like if inflation goes up, I guess I gotta stop buying milk or whatever, right? I gotta stop doing something so I can hold on. Or if inflation is going up, I'll just buy gold, right? Hold on to that because gold is gonna stay more in value. Or if the recession's coming up, I want to make sure that my properties are doing great and everything is kind of sailing well. And what do you think, Chad, the secret sauce is to being successful?
Secret sauce. Hmm, that's a good question. Let's see here. I mean, just the biggest thing is starting, and then just sticking with it. I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so. I mean, the biggest thing I see a lot of times is people not even trying. So that's like the biggest thing, and then not giving it enough time. But I've also, sometimes when you start trying different businesses, and like now I'm sort of into, it's kind of, they're kind of combined, but it's it's always like once you get deeper and deeper, it's like what's where are you going next to get to the end goal? Like obviously I know I want to make tons of money and have this awesome property and like tons of real estate eventually too. um so that, I mean, that's the biggest thing. And well, I guess no, I've got it now. Okay.
Yeah.
I came to it. But the biggest thing is just learning how to scale and learning how to leverage other people, and then making relationships. Even just with getting time, like I was planning on going on the road, and I was able to go to the round table with you and just making some relationships, talking, just being somewhat likable,
Yeah,
and,
you're very likable, I'll tell you
and
that.
relatable. Like I was like I was kind of surprised at how like I was able to talk to Gil and stuff, and like it just like and just like caring about people first. And profit's important in business, but if you care about people and you're willing to like do some of the dirty work and just like
Yeah.
show up and act humble, I think, I mean, there's just unlimited opportunities, because I get to work with so many other businesses in the same space that are kind of competitors that will like feed me, like make
Yeah.
my pocket full, and then like invite me over on Thanksgiving or on fishing trips and stuff, like, so it's
It's
some
like
of the,
don't bite the hand that's feeding you, right?
exactly.
And try to give back as much as you can. I see that in you a lot, Chad. Like you always try to give back. You give back more than you receive as well. I notice that a lot. You're like, oh, I think I need to give like 100% back, and that's an awesome trait. I love that you do that. Because I could tell everybody that you bought like like 20 copies of my book, right? I'm like, why did you do that, right? And don't get me wrong, I gave it to so many people after that as well, and I
Okay.
appreciate that.
What?
You just surprised me with that. You were like, when I first met you, you're like, oh look, I bought 20 copies of your book.
Well,
You can hand it out to people.
you don't understand. You don't understand. Like I like I see how you work. Like even before I even knew you. Like all of a sudden this guy was like, I had all these mutual like friends you may know, and like you're popping up on every darn like real estate person I knew. I was like, who's this kid? Like who the and then like sometimes you're like, who the hell does this kid think he is? Just some random, you know. And where did he come from? Like he fell out of the sky. So I got to see kind of your character too. It's just like, oh shoot, like he's like hanging out with all those people. And I'm like, oh, he's like networking. I'm like, he's like following these like success books to the T. Like, damn, like this kid. But and then also seeing how much value you bring to or connecting different people and just I don't know. It's just there's one book that talks about like your one or I don't know if it was a book or so. I've heard a bunch of people quote it, but it's like you're one relationship away from like changing your life, because if you meet some billionaire that say you're in junk removal or freight, if you meet some billionaire that like needs to send millions of dollars of freight every year across the country, I mean you're one relationship away from just like if you get like 1% of a million, that's like you get your 100,000 or whatever, or 10%, whatever it is. But what I'm saying, like if you can get your basic needs taken care of, and then you just start. I guess I would say the other thing too. There's so many caveats that you can
No,
say
you're
about
good.
success. Is just like it's just limiting your lifestyle and spending the money on the right relationships and like meeting the right people
Yeah.
first before you like don't take like I haven't really taken that much profit from my business like at all. So because I just keep building it, and that's the key. I mean, the longer you can stay in the suck, as they say, the more you could invest and get further ahead. So eventually you'll be able to live like, Dave Ramsey quote, live like nobody else, live like nobody else. Like, but do the hard stuff when you're young so you can live comfortably or beyond comfortably, like, so.
Nice. I love it. I love it. That was going to be my question. My next question, like, what quotes do you live by? But you just named off like 3 quotes right there.
There's so
Uh,
many, man.
yeah.
I
And
was I just finished Alex Mosey's $100 million deal, and
yeah,
just learning some of the marketing styles he has, and just like my favorite thing that's kind of stuck in my head is like the high low. Have a product that's super high, low, because
yeah.
you have too many people like will go for the middle. So if you have high low, they'll either go high or low. So
And
so
going with the what books would you recommend for people?
I just got done with a $100 million deal. It's kind of like a marketing book. Alex Mimosy is like one of my favorite guys right now. Like
Yeah.
I see short clips of him on social media and stuff, and I like I like how him and his partner like work together, and so kind of that's with me and my girlfriend, that's kind of what like how I see my future kind of playing out. It's like having multiple businesses and kind of playing off each other's strengths, because if you have a really good relationship, it can determine your success. If you're with the wrong person, and it's very expensive to end a relationship. So especially if you go down the marriage route and stuff. So just you know
No, you're good. Yeah. You're like, oh, let me just stop right there. The
yeah,
mirrors.
yeah.
And second to last question here is there anything that you would like to tell your mother or father?
Yeah, no, they were a good example of how to work hard. They gave good advice. A lot of times your parents will give advice like good, sound, safe advice.
It's a good way
I
of saying
think,
it.
yeah, I mean, which is great. Kind of like sometimes when you're giving your friend advice, like it's similar. You give them like the safe advice. Oh, this is like with relationships and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. They taught me how to work hard, and I definitely appreciated that. And my dad taught me how to take risks, and um even when he didn't really know a lot about something, like he still really doesn't know how to, like he doesn't really know much about trees, but he always hired somebody that was like a professional
Yeah.
and leverage other people's skills. And he was just a great cleanup guy and the face that like funny and likable. So but you know, I definitely appreciate everything they did. They always took good care of us, and my mom made sure. I guess the biggest thing I would thank my mom for sitting there, forcing me to learn how to read, because I was up till like 12, I would not learn. Like I was like, no, I'm not. I want to do other things. Like, and she would like fought with me and sat me down and made sure. And then once the fire of like and the value of reading opened up, like they could not get me to stop. Like our family was all a bunch of avid readers. Like you know, some of my brothers probably read every Star Wars book they made, and there was probably 100. Like there was just like we go to the library and there'd be stacked. Like the love of reading was probably the key to many people's success, but definitely my mom instilled that in me. So
Man, you had great parents, I'll tell you that for sure.
and
And
they're still, you know, they're trying to guide me as best they can. So
yeah, they're doing great. And lastly, how can people reach out to you and what value can they give back to you?
value they can. I mean, I don't you know, I mean, if they have any connections, I mean, but I personally like to like, you know, give value first, and they can reach out to me on Facebook. On Facebook, I'm Chad Mack. My real last name is McMahon, but my nickname was Mac in the army. So that's kind of, I kind of kept it. That's kind of kept. And then I've got the business page at Max Labs on Facebook. So that's my business page. You know, just let me know who you are. If you have any more questions, if anyone has questions, you know, if anyone, I mean, should I shoot my cell phone number out? I don't know, you know, I'll throw it out there.
Nice, nice. Uh, Glad having you here, Chad, and thank you for coming. And you did an awesome job. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, brother.